from screen to shelf.
What is going on, everybody? Today is a very special From Screen to Shelf episode. After a few breaks here and there, we are finally at the point of our 50th episode, guys, and we have something really cool in store. We are all known over on the Discord server, which we usually, when we remember, link in the comment descriptions down below. So head on over there because the lovely members that are about to join us, we have 3 guests that are some of our top contributors over in the Discord server that we're excited to be on our 50th episode. So what we are going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about movies we've done before, underrated, overhated. We're not trying to go, that was just what we felt like was like not getting talked about enough. We didn't go off of a specific score off of that. That was just feelings, emotions, no logic in that aspect. So for this one, we're going with critically, commercially, universally not liked movies that we like, adore, love, or even just think is fine above what the threshold is. So without further ado, we are going to introduce our very first guest of the hour. That is going to be Mr. Nathan, aka X, over on the Discord server. A very, very, very
we should have got like
member.
A round of applause sound, man.
the soundboard. Tell us a little bit about yourself, X. Tell us what you're about, what you like, man.
Yeah, hi. My name is Nathan. My 2 big things, honestly, are movies that are like so weird and out there that you have to watch them several times to feel like you actually understand them, while also just really enjoying like some more simple movies, like Nolan stuff. I'm a big fan of Nolan.
I love you already.
I know. My sucking up is working. And I'm like big into audio stuff. I got my own AVR, built my own speakers. I just got these bad boys. These are $1,200. It was good shit.
Ooh, let's go.
I love that. Love that stuff. But yeah, glad to be here.
Hell yeah. And you did just recently watch Naked Lunch yesterday and you loved it, man.
It was
Welcome
good.
Onto the Cronenberg train.
It's good.
And without further ado, our next guest, he actually just had his episode dropped. Was it last week on Wednesday? Sometime last week, we had our world premiere of the beautiful mug of Mr. Nick, a.k.a. Phyrexianbread, a.k.a. whatever he's changing his name to every 2 hours, a.k.a. Who Let Me On the Show Again. Tell the world about yourself, Mr. Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick. I decided one episode wasn't enough, so I barged my way into this recording and just kind of made them do it with me. I'm a big fan of bad movies, horror movies, Doctor Who. You might hear me mention Doctor Who once or twice. Hopefully not. But yeah, I like being entertained by movies, and I'm crazy enough that I like Terrifier 3 so much, I went back and saw it again in theaters the next day. So
let's go.
That's our basis for what we're working with today.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. Welcome aboard and welcome to From Screen to Shelf. And without further ado, the only member that has been on an actual podcast episode, one of our beloved friends from across the pond that joined us for our State of Physical Media episode, a.k.a. Mr. Whiskey himself, we have Chris joining us today. Chris, how are you today, sir?
Doing good. Very tired though now.
Okay, right on. Tell the world about your infatuation with James Bond.
Well, I've just got back from a James Bond concert, so that probably says something, where they just do instrumental tracks of James Bond for 3 hours.
Let's go.
I've seen every single James Bond film in the cinema during the 60th anniversary, where they showed one once a week. That's probably about. I could talk for James Bond for hours, but I'd rather talk about some other stuff like terrible movies.
Terrible movies. Let's go. And you're allowed to say that you're ashamed in Chase for the whiskey he was drinking. last episode.
Yes, I
Benchmark.
do not support that choice.
There are no rules here.
It was the cheapest. Whenever I think I talked about it on the episode, it was actually Mr. Chris himself that was the one that told me about a certain label that I liked. So I was like, let me compare it with the cheapest shit that I can find. And that ended up being what I was drinking on that episode. So thank
how
you,
did that
Chris,
go?
for opening.
It didn't go well, man.
Yeah.
It didn't go well.
It was a lot, man. That was a lot in the bottle for how cheap it was. Holy shit. It felt like it was never ending. It's like Deadpool's infinite ammo pouch. Like the benchmark was never going lower,
Costco
man.
bulk whiskey, bro.
All right, guys. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and tackle the subject of the hour and go over some of our honorable mentions. So one of my honorable mentions is actually a movie that did just recently come out. I have actually watched the second one with a valuable member that's here with us today, Mr. Nick. It is actually going to be Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey Part 1. I don't understand the hate for that movie. It was made on $50,000, so you should definitely temper your expectations, but it's literally number 34 on the lowest rated IMDb movies. That is crazy. Like, yeah, it's boring as hell. I'm not sitting here saying I gave it like 3 or 4 stars out of 5. You know, it's like it's a 2.5. I just think that they understood what they were trying to do, and that was just take advantage of something going right into public domain at the time. You know, the costume designs were cool. The kills were all right. Otherwise, it's another B movie. It's no different than any other B movie. I really don't know what else to say. 2.9 out of 10 on IMDb with a 3% Rotten Tomato score. That is crazy.
You said
Damn,
3%?
bro.
Yeah, dude, like one person. That was me, probably my
That's,
my
yeah, I was gonna
letterbox.
say that's your review.
That
Holy
was my
crap,
review.
man.
But yeah, and a 1.1 LB average. That is crazy. 1.1 on Letterboxd, and like mine sits up top there. It's at a 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So I find that pretty interesting. So we'll go next, right below, so that way it doesn't go all three of us and then you guys. So we'll go with you next, Chris, since you're below me.
Okay, so I've got an honourable mention. Kind of cheating, and also I said I wouldn't talk about Bond, but guess what? I'm going to talk about Bond. So my choice would be A View to a Kill. It's not that low rated, but people despise it, especially in the Bond world. In this concert I went to today, they gave 2 examples of terrible Bond films, and one of them is Moonraker, and the other one was A View to a Kill. Here's the thing. I absolutely love that movie. It is one of my favorite James Bond movies, and many people will disagree. Yes, Roger Moore is way too old for it, but it has Christopher Walken in a blimp.
Say less.
What more could you want? He
Yeah.
plays
That's all you
a
need.
maniacal maniac Bond villain. It's fantastic. And it is
Okay.
the only James Bond film you should watch.
Yeah, you
Damn.
gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I was looking at it right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. But it's
4.5?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and it has a 2.8
Whoa.
Letterboxd average.
It's the only
There you
James
go,
Bond
Chris.
film he doesn't have it 5 out of 5.
He was being
That
modest. He
explains
changed it right
everything.
before this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Mr. Mega Will Forgery himself.
Yeah, so I told you guys before we rolled I was going to pick Batman and Robin, but I didn't because I thought that someone else would pick it. But I actually found this movie again. I don't know if any of you guys remember Craig Carson in the Discord.
Yeah,
Shout
yeah,
out
yeah.
to Craig.
Mhm.
Him and I actually have like a shared affinity for this movie. And it was originally, I think the rating right now sits somewhere in the 30s, but it's a movie from 2003 called In the Cut with Meg Ryan and Mark Ruffalo. And Craig and I have talked about this movie a lot, but this movie, it's an erotic thriller that was pretty much, it bombed when it came out, and was actually, a lot of people think that this was one of the movies that was responsible for kind of killing Meg Ryan's career in the mid 2000s. That's how like universally like panned this movie was. But I actually think it's pretty good. If you guys are into that kind of stuff, again, it's not a movie for everybody. I really don't watch a lot of these kind of movies, erotic thrillers, so to speak, but people
So
have
you
kind of
say.
like, well, so I
I'm just
said, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of late
Just the
nights
opposite,
here
not the
at
thriller part.
at the house. No, but in honesty, I think it's actually a really well acted, well written movie. In fact, for fans of Mark Ruffalo, I mean, this is one of the most, I guess you could say, out there movies he's ever done. You know, compared to what else he's usually in. So for someone that's just kind of used to seeing him in a lot of these more mainstream, superhero films, more mainstream movies nowadays, to see him in something like this, and not only, the fact that he was cast in a movie like this, but just the fact that he's actually really good in it, in my opinion, was just kind of a treat. So, yeah, that was my honorable mention. If we get, do you want to do 2 honorable mentions each, or are we going to wait until if we have time?
Because that's getting into Chase territory, man. Chase is the one always doing like 3 or 4 honorable mentions.
I know he's got like 10 movies lined up, like just in case. But yeah, that's my honorable mention. 2003's In the Cut with Meg Ryan and Mark Ruffalo. Check it out.
Okay, I never heard of that movie before. Now, man, I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, Craig's talked about it a few different times, actually.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I just added it to the watch list. It doesn't look like something I'd like, but I will check it out. I mean, if you like it that much, man, you and I share similar tastes, so you've never put me on something wrong.
I mean, I don't love it, but I just think it's one of those movies that Craig talked about a lot, and he kind of got me to check it out. And I remember like seeing it at some point. It was probably on like HBO or something, like back in the day. And Craig actually got me to check it out again, and I actually liked it a lot more the second time. But again, I don't think it's a masterpiece like some people are saying, but definitely not deserving of the rating that it got. So
yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, great pick, man. Yeah, I just added it on there. It sounds interesting. It just doesn't seem like my usual foray, but that's why I love whenever we do these types of episodes, because usually one of you guys are mentioning something that I don't know of, and it definitely makes me want to check it out. So solid pick.
Yeah, man. And Nathan, I think, was it you that said, or someone said they weren't sure who Meg Ryan was? Meg Ryan was like
I looked
in,
her up.
The 90s.
Yeah, Sleepless in Seattle and all that
I was going to say
stuff.
Sleepless in Seattle. Yeah,
I guess that movie nuked her career so bad. I never got exposed to her outside of.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that. All right, guys. For the next honorable mention, we got Mr. Nick right below Mr. Will. What do we got, Nick?
So for my list, I went exclusively to Letterboxd and looked at movies that had below 2.5 average on there.
Okay.
So, I mean, for honorable mention, I figured I should stay on brand. So my honorable mention is the one and only Jason Goes to Hell. I think it might be like a 40-minute episode on this channel about why I like that movie, but it's such a fun movie, and I just do not comprehend how it has a 1.7 average. It just confirms my belief that Letterboxd users hate movies that are fun, and that's about it.
You just couldn't help yourself.
I
knew.
Just a full attack on Letterboxd itself.
That's wonderful. Gabe, what Nolan film do you think is underrated?
None of them.
Oh boy.
So I actually chose 2002's classic Kung Pao Enter the Fist as my honorable mention yet. I fucking love that movie, dude. That movie is a classic. You've never seen it, Chase?
Mm-mm.
Are you serious? No way, bro.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, have you guys seen it? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? I know.
Yeah,
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
Oh my god, you guys need to watch.
I've never even heard of it.
Trashy, stupid comedy with like bad lip syncing. Like it's pretty much like making fun of kung fu movies with the bad lip syncing, but even though it's in English, and it's just random jokes, doesn't make any sense. If you like that stuff, then Kung Pao is honestly a treat. It's honestly a great movie, and I watched it I think a few weeks ago, and it still holds up. It's just stupid, raunchy humor. It's a trash movie. I can see objectively how it's a bad movie, but it's too much fun. It's a blast to watch.
Same director that did the second Ace Ventura.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he also did Barnyard. He did Nothing to Lose. He did a 29-minute short called Thumb Wars: The Phantom Cuticle, which is a parody of Star Wars Phantom Menace. So that's kind of
we got to check that one out now. But
yeah,
damn, I'm surprised you haven't seen it, Chase.
When I looked at it, because he's got like fingers for eyes in the letterbox review like that, like something out of a Guillermo del Toro movie. So I mean, it definitely seems like something to be up my alley. And I mean, the ratings are everywhere, all over. So,
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's a horrible movie, but it's fun. It's a guilty,
pretty
it's a
off the
guilty
wall,
pleasure,
though.
dude. Yeah.
yeah,
From what I remember, though, Gabe, the some of the like gimmicks in it are actually pretty well done. Like the satire itself is actually pretty spot on for some of those like '80s like Hong Kong martial arts movies. In fact, I think they like use footage from like some of them too, and like intercut. I don't know who the actor is that plays the main
I
guy
forget
there.
the actor's name, but I remember some lawsuits, I think, because they had used a lot of footage from like 80s Hong Kong
Yeah.
movies. And I mean, I think it's one of those movies, man, that just came out a little too early. I could be wrong, but like I'd be curious if you guys watch it, what you think of it. But I think it just kind of came out too early and it was just really trash. Like if it came out, a few years ago, I think that it'd probably get better ratings, but we'll see. You guys watch it and let me know.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Honestly, kind of sounds up my alley.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
garbage,
like-
but it's so
yeah.
funny.
All right, I'm gonna be a rule breaker and cheat. I'm gonna do two at once, but everything I say about
Oh,
them is
Chase.
basically the same. Okay. Both of these films were created for like a child audience, but like the people who made these films, I would never actually trust with children. And it's Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2, and Son of the Mask. Those
Yeah.
movies are
Oh my!
horrendously
Oh,
bad,
boy.
like horrendously bad. But at the same time, they're like the perfect kind of movie to like pop in an edible and watch with like 5 other people and just giggle the whole time,
Yeah.
Like both of those films have so much random shit going on in them, but like I couldn't tell you what actually happens in the movie. Like I watched Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2 last year with some friends. I don't remember anything. I could go back to that and it would be like a fresh experience every single time.
Yeah.
I think there's genuinely some value to that in regards of like the experience of watching them. Not necessarily that they're good, but like sometimes it's nice to have a film that really challenges what's outside the norms,
Yeah.
just so you can the way you feel when you watch those is just wholly unique to them, and I definitely worth checking out with some friends, particularly while inebriated. I recommend those.
And it's
Son
just
of the
quite.
Mask.
No, go for
It's
it,
got like no, I was just gonna say, Son of the Mask. I just remember Jamie Kennedy's in it, and it's got like that '90s feel, but like it wasn't released. It was like 10 years later, like
Yeah, it's 2005.
super
the
late.
time that came out.
Yeah, and it like the CGI is bonkers in Son of the Mask. It's just so weird and in your face and just like uncomfortable. It's great.
I gotta watch it again.
Bob Clark needs to be studied in a university, man, because like, he made
Absolutely.
A Christmas Story, he made Black Christmas, one of the best horror movies of all time, in my opinion. And then he goes all the way to like Porky's, and then Baby Genius, and then Baby Geniuses 2. It's just
Nothing wrong with
interesting.
Porky's.
I've seen them. I don't remember them. I don't remember them being as bad as everybody said. Like I think those were movies that like your parents are doing dishes and like they need to leave the room and they turn on something and you're like 4 years old. And that's what I've always imagined. But I mean, they're just extremely bizarre too. It's kind of like the same guy that did Son of the Mask did that movie Cats and Dogs. It's not like inherently great,
Oh yeah,
but you know what I mean? Like it knows its audience. But I mean, you can still have so much fun with those movies upon rewatch value. But yeah,
Is that where
Son of
the dogs
Mask,
were
man,
like super spies or something like that, right? And
Yeah.
the cat was like a I
Cats are
remember that.
evil as
Yeah.
fuck.
like cats.
That was fantastic.
That was actually
movie.
like a fun movie, but I mean, again, that's what you're saying, Chase. Like to me, I remember that as a kid watching it, and it was just
Yeah.
like on repeat sometimes. But I mean, I
Yeah.
don't remember. I mean, I haven't seen it since, so I'm curious to
see
watch it again, and see how bad
how it
it
holds up.
is.
Obviously, it was written by dog lovers. So
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
The anti-cat society got a hold of it and
Yeah.
and propaganda against cats.
Real.
No, that was great recommendations, guys. So for
Yeah, good
one that
picks.
I think is a lot more discussion worthy. I actually didn't know. Now that we're getting into our conversation oriented ones, this movie actually shocked me. I didn't know that this movie was universally panned. It's number 59 on the lowest rated IMDb films of all time. It's a 3.3 on the IMDb scale and 16% rotten with a 1.9 letterboxd average. and that's going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the next generation.
Oh,
I had no idea people actually despise. Now, to put this into perspective, the Netflix one, Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw 3 has a higher rating than that. That is crazy. Like,
yeah, because some of those are not exactly.
yeah, they're not it, you know.
Not the
And
best.
I'm a massive Texas Chainsaw fan, and it blows my mind because Matthew McConaughey's performance in that is absolutely wild. He goes
Bonkers.
batshit crazy in that. And it's just fun. It's kind of like it just takes that Texas Chainsaw and Texas Chainsaw 2 vibes and really tries to ramp it up. Especially if you've got the Scream Factory Blu-ray release. That one has it was only ever released on the Japanese Laserdisc, if I recall right. The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre cut, which just makes it a little bit darker and a little bit heavier, and kind of removes a little bit of those comedic elements to a degree. But it just basically makes a little bit more gore in there and stuff. So it's nothing too crazy different. But yeah, it's just so much fun, man. Like Matthew McConaughey is just crazy. You have that whole prom scene.
When did this come out?
1999? 94.
Yeah, mid
94?
90s.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I had no clue Matthew McConaughey was in a Chainsaw movie. Like,
Yeah.
I would have never guessed.
Dude,
Ever.
this is like
Put a gun to my head. Never.
I only knew about this because I rented it. I remember like it was a Blockbuster, dude. Like I'm talking about like I think I saw this movie in like 2003, maybe 2003 or something, because I was getting into like old horror movies, and I remember watching this movie with Matthew McConaughey, and I haven't seen it since, so I can't really I can't confirm or deny what you're saying, like if it's good or bad. But I remember not liking it. I remember popping it in, and I'm like, this movie is crap.
Shame.
But I mean, that's 20 years ago, dude. So I mean, maybe things have changed. Who knows?
Might
But
be
time to
better
start
than
there.
Interstellar.
no. How do we kick Nathan out of here? Let me see. Hold on. Where's the kick out button?
You got to be careful, man. He's quick on that trigger. You say one wrong thing about Nolan, you're done.
Either the hairline trigger on there. But yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah,
I know the reanalysis wave has started on it, but I've always adored it. I literally have it as a 4 out of 5. Like it just knows what it wants to be. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't try to be anything but what it really knows. It has some good intense scenes like the original Texas Chainsaw, and it really does make you laugh. Like Matthew McConaughey has like this auto mechanical leg brace around there, and so like there's times where he's like running around and he's like, you know, he's like his leg isn't like working quite well, so like it just gets in, it's just weird. But I mean, it's a great performance, and it was one of his first movies, if I remember right. It was like his 3rd or 4th movie. It was filmed the same year as Dazed and Confused, if I'm recalling correctly, and released that summer, and then Dazed came out later, if I remember right. I know it was a very short time frame because Dazed and Confused is what, you know, skyrocketed him upwards, but I thought it was extremely awesome that kind of generated in that sense. So
I thought Renee
I guess-
Zellweger was pretty good in it too, from what I remember. Like
that was an early one too, right? Yeah.
That was her first movie. Same with McConaughey, I believe. I think it was both of their firsts.
Was
Yeah,
it?
like first role. Yeah.
Wow.
It might have been, and I know they wanted. I think their lawyers like sued whatever company was putting it out on like physical at the time.
bury
so they didn't
it.
want their names attached to the project. It was so
Yeah.
dated.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
might have been on my list. So
Yeah,
He's
that,
panicking, rewriting his list as we speak.
yeah, he's over typing.
He's
trying
just gonna
figure out
do
some-
Jason Goes to Hell again
Yeah.
and talk about it more.
plugs in. He's like, well, there's my Batman and Robin plug
Yeah.
now.
There we go.
But yeah, I do remember that, Brad. That or Nick. That's a great shout out, because I do remember that movie got absolutely buried after it came out, because they both like jumped to stardom extremely quickly. You know, they made that. It was coming out like Dazed and Confused, like I said, came out around the same time, and Renee Zellweger had a lot of success around that era. So that's my number 1, and we're gonna move on to Mr.
pick.
Chris.
Okay. Again, I didn't know people didn't like this until I started talking about it on the Discord. But I'm going to go with Transformers: The Last Night.
Oh, shit. Oh my god. Did you, me and Chase have a whole conversation, I think, on this movie in one of the episodes. I forgot which one it was.
The fallen one, Chris. God.
Well, I can't keep up my fantastic taste in movies all the time. At some point, it's going to have to slip.
Yeah.
I loved the movie when it came out. I didn't think it was good, but I enjoyed it tremendously. It's
Mhm.
got a very good cast, obviously.
Mhm.
Set in England.
Mhm.
Bumblebee fights the Nazis, if I remember, and Merlin the Wizard is a drunk. So, absolute cinema. I honestly don't understand why people hate it so much, and still don't understand why people absolutely despise this movie. As you can tell by your guys' reaction.
Don't get
to
these
it.
two started. Don't get them started.
Oh man, I know. Like Anthony Hopkins must have added just that
It's
much more
fun.
class to the movie for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't it end at Stonehenge or something like that?
Yeah,
Oh,
wasn't it like
yeah.
a Cybertronian Matrix or something? And that's
Yeah.
like, weren't the
Yeah.
Autobots or the Decepticons the reason Stonehenge was there or something, if I remember right?
Anthony Hopkins gets like obliterated, right? Doesn't he just get blasted by one of the Decepticons and just instantly
Something like
dies? I think I saw a gif of that like a
Something like
couple
that.
weeks ago.
It's
Dude.
like,
It's
just like, what is this
Silence of the
from?
Lambs, you know? It's on the same level as Anthony Hopkins' acting.
Oh, boy.
That's crazy.
Okay, that might be a
I
bit too
admire your
far.
love.
Maybe about there.
Oh,
I
man,
admire your love for it.
You know what?
man.
I'll give you this, Chris. I think I remember, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't seen this movie since it came out. I think in theaters. Chase and I were talking about it. Is this the one where like Bumblebee was like killing everyone as he was like diving down or something? Yeah,
Yeah.
like there was like
No, I
that
think-
was like the only
that was the
moment in the
last
whole
one.
movie. Or was it? See, I can't even fucking remember. I don't even know anymore.
They're all the same.
It's a
They
blur.
blend into one.
Yeah.
So it's not even in that one. So
think
yeah, I
that
was
might
trying to
have
give you another plus for that one, but if it didn't happen in that one, then
I think that
Which
might be Rise of the
installment is it
Beast,
in the
but
franchise? What number is it?
5. Because it's Age of Extinction and Last Night.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And he rides Grimlock like he's a horse.
Oh yeah.
It's cinema. Peak cinema.
He was like, it came out in IMAX, guys.
Yeah,
elevates
that means
it.
it's good. Just
Yeah.
like all the Nolan films.
Oh,
Yeah.
where's that button? I can't find it. I really don't know where it's at.
So Chris, what do you I failed to look it up because I was just in disbelief that you brought that up. But what's your letterbox score for that?
I haven't actually rated it, but I'd probably give it a solid 3.5,
Hmm.
B.
which for me is quite good because I've given The Exorcist 3.5.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, Gabe, don't you just move on. Will, what's your
I don't want
No, I
Stroke,
think,
man.
Chris,
I'm
I
about to
think
have a
you should
stroke.
elaborate a little bit. I just want to see Gabe slowly die inside.
Um,
Oh,
I mean, it's all
you
right.
got, you got heartburn over there, Gabe?
I think I'm
Take a
gonna have,
thumbs.
my left
Honest-
arm is starting to get some intense pain. I think that's a precursor
Don't-
to
just
a heart attack.
don't go anywhere near my letterbox, please.
I'm going to your letterbox after this video is done, and commenting on your review if it's up.
I've got a lot
Still look-
worse.
Don't look at
You-
his 2001 review.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you know what his 2001 rating is? Not to
Let's
be the
keep
dead
going.
horse.
Let's keep going.
I raised that just for you. I raised it.
Yeah, he did.
What is it?
I
I just need to
appreciate
know
it.
real quick. Let's just
1 star.
It used to be half a star.
So Transformers,
It's
let's just go on
Audible.
record. Transformers: The Last Night is a better movie
It's
than
better than
2001.
2001.
It's
I'd
3.5
rather
times
watch it.
better.
One
Oh,
has
Jimmy, that's
Atmos,
crazy.
one doesn't.
There you go.
But
I
that's
can't,
how
I
that
can't
works,
argue
man.
against
It's
that, man.
Audio.
I can't. You got us, bro. You got us. Good.
So I win.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, you win.
that's an interesting take.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
respect it, Chris. You know, one thing I gotta say for everybody, because I know a lot of the Discord members, dude, I gotta absolutely admire how you have unwavering
Yeah.
opinions, man. Like nobody, like you sit there. You know how I post that GIF of Prince with the girl smashing the window and like throwing a drink? That's you to the fullest. You know, like
I don't even have to try. It's just I'm naturally good at this.
There you go.
Yeah, his
Being an arse.
stupidity
That's
is
awesome.
cemented.
How dare you?
Great pick. That'll
Mhm.
definitely get a lot of people talking as
Mhm.
the episode comes out. So great pick, Chris. That is
And
what
hopefully
we were
more
looking
people
for.
watching it.
That is the reason you came on here. That is the opinions
Oh,
we
yeah.
needed. Will, what is your number one?
I don't really have an order, but I guess I'll continue the tradition that you started with, like 90s horror, like relatively low key or unknown 90s horror. But this is more, I guess it's more of like a science fiction horror movie. and I had seen it once like years ago, but didn't remember it correctly. But it's actually one that I watched more recently, and that's Phantoms, which I have
Oh,
the
is that low
4K
rated?
from. It's dude. So I actually looked, and it's got like a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't know
That's
if that's just
crazy.
because it's relatively unknown to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I did some like reading online, and it seems like it wasn't really that much of a success. But you know, with Texas starring Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck is actually in this movie, which I thought was interesting. That's actually what kind of sold it to me, because I was like, oh, I kind of want to see him in something that's considered like a science
Bad.
fiction horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just so weird to see him, and he's fine in it. He actually he acts pretty well in it. I mean, everyone in this is solid. And I'm trying to remember the other guy's name. He's
Peter
the
O'Toole.
guy that gets accused as the villain in Scream 2. Trying to find his name.
Oh,
on here.
Lee Schreiber, the guy that plays.
Oh yeah, yep. Lee
Yeah.
The guy that plays Sabretooth in X-Men
Mhm.
Origins Wolverine. That's of course his most iconic role, of course.
Yeah, he's actually really good in this. But you know, and it's like interesting because it has a lot of these same actors that were popular around that time, like Rose McGowan's in this movie. But I actually thought it was pretty good. It's about a small town that deals with a lot of these like electrical power issues. And it's actually due to a supernatural force. It's actually based on a book by Dean Kuntz, which was apparently based on some stuff from like H.P. Lovecraft, like influenced from H.P. Lovecraft. Although I guess the book didn't really include a lot of those, I guess, inspirations, whereas the movie kind of takes a different direction and chooses to do that. So it's pretty interesting. If you like movies like Event Horizon and The Faculty, which again, a lot of these movies like The Faculty, very similar to this movie in certain regards. But yeah, I would recommend this one, Phantoms. And again, I don't know if this is like hated. I just don't know if it's well known enough for people to really form like a decent consensus on it. But I noticed on Rotten Tomatoes it was like 9%. I was like, damn, that's pretty low. So, but I liked it. I'd give it probably like a 3.5 out of 5. So
Interesting. I have
yeah,
to check
Phantoms.
that out because Ben Affleck was the shit in Phantoms, yo. Shout out Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was right around that time, right? Like Dogma
Yeah.
and all those movies were coming out. So, you know, and him and what's his face? Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Jason Bourne. Somebody help me out here.
Oh, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Oh,
Matt
Matt
Damon.
Damon.
Yeah. Matt Damon.
Yeah.
That one guy.
You know, interesting. It's again like not a role that like you see him play that often, or at least after this point in his career, he didn't really, you know, touch that much in terms of the type of character and the type of movie. So I always look for those kind of things. It's just something that's different from the norm, you know, especially when actors tend to like make the same kind of movies like within certain genres. It's just interesting to see him do something different. So yeah, Phantoms. If you guys can check it out too. I mean, I don't know if Shout's going to have another sale. It might be worth picking up at some point if it's on sale.
I will.
So
That's cool.
I just
yeah.
didn't want to pay $30 for a blind buy, but that's a great shout out.
yeah, actually,
I've never
this
seen
one
it.
was actually damaged. It was on Orbit, and they had like it was like $5 or $6 off. So I ended up getting it for like it was like 24, which is still maybe a lot for some people, but you know, I thought
Good
it was
for a
worth
shout
it.
release.
So yeah.
Great pick, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Nick, what is your number one? What is the one
Jason
you want
Goes
the
to
world
Hell.
to know about the most?
So it is in fact not Jason Goes to Hell. So I came in with two movies, one of which is very bad, but I love it, and one of which is I think genuinely really good that everyone hates, and I don't understand why. So we're gonna start off with the really bad one. So this is a movie called Ultraviolet, directed
Oh,
by
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kurt Wimmer.
Bill's talked about
Did
it. Yeah.
a Children of the Corn movie.
Mm-hmm.
But Ultraviolet is sort of like this, I guess, like 2000s era Matrix ripoff with Mila Jovovich in it, and it's got just like truly abysmal CGI, which is really fun. And it's like it's interesting because the story ideas are like could make an interesting movie, but the movie just didn't come together well. But Mila Jovovich is like this super vampire that like is trying to save this like dystopian futuristic world from this like tyrant. It's been a hot minute since I've seen it, but I remember absolutely falling in love with it. It's got some just like over the top ridiculous action. Mila Jovovich has one of like the most ridiculous like outfit get-ups I think I've ever seen a character, where it's just like completely covers every inch of her except for her stomach for some reason, and like
course.
periodically changes colors throughout the course of the movie. So it's like red and then like purple and then white. And yeah, this movie is just utterly ridiculous, abysmal CGI like Matrix ripoff, and it's just it's such a fun movie. It's at a 2.0 on Letterboxd, and it was at 1.9. So now we're up into twos. So clearly people are coming around to this just unknown masterpiece by Kurt Wimmer. So yeah, that's Ultraviolet. That's my pick.
That's a good pick, dude. We've talked about that movie because I forget what episode it was, but we did an episode, Gabe or Chase, you might help me out here, but I forget what it was, but I had picked a movie called Equilibrium with Christian Bale.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like similar movies that had come out around that whole period in time where like a lot of them were, like you said, like kind of derived from like, you know, the Matrix type, just essentially like copies of that. And yeah, I think we mentioned Ultraviolet as one of those movies that's worth checking out. I mean, the thing with Mila Jovovich, she's done so many bad movies, but yet every time I see her in a movie on TV, it's just entertaining. I mean, I definitely think she's got a lot of charisma as an actress, you know. I just wish she did like a lot of better films, but she might be in one of my picks. So we'll wait and see. Yeah, but
I like her Resident Evil movies a lot because I don't play the games, so I'm not like insulted by the fact that they just mangle and destroy the lore. But yeah, it's not a good movie.
Those movies are so
they're not even the games. Like they shouldn't even be called Resident Evil to be.
Yeah. But no,
I agree with you, Will. Though I think she's a great actress. I think that it's just she's just put in a lot of bad projects. And I remember Ultraviolet. I remember the scene. It's like she was like in a chair or something. It was like these like spider robot things like all over her face. Like, yeah, I don't remember what was happening, but like the CGI was just so bad. It was like really, really bad.
It's like the background image you see when you look it up on Letterboxd. It's like all these needles that it's like poking her for some reason. And I forget exactly why, because I wasn't really paying attention to the plot of the movie when I watched it. I was just kind of hopping from action scene to action scene, which admittedly, like, the action scenes are fun, but like I think this was supposed to be rated R, and it didn't. So
it was PG-13, right?
Yeah.
When it was released.
It would have been more fun if it was rated R, but yeah, it's so dumb. It's honestly worth a watch just to see it.
Yeah, if you like that movie,
Aeon Flux was the one I always confused this movie.
Aeon Flux with Charlize Theron, right?
Yeah. Rips.
Oh, you're a fan, Chase?
Yeah, dude. But the last time I saw it, I have the HD DVD on my shelf over there. That's the last time I saw it. Was the HD DVD.
Can you even play
that's
all
crazy.
Crap.
I still have an HD DVD player.
If you like Ultraviolet, Nick, I would check out Equilibrium if you haven't seen it, because Kurt Wimmer, he actually directed both of those movies. He directed Equilibrium too, so that's a fun one.
Gun Kata.
Gun Kata. Yeah.
Children of the Corn, one of Kang's favorite movies. I think it was one of the.
Yeah, he did the newest one, the Shudder one. Yeah, rest in peace his career after that.
What, Chase? Was it you that said there's like 11 of those movies, or more than 11 Children of the Corn movies?
Yeah, man. I've been on a journey all year to like
Children.
Find the worst one.
No, I'm trying to find the worst horror franchise. There's one I need to get through before I can crown that. There's this one called Witchcraft that has 16 movies I eventually want to get through, and Howling has like 9. Children of the Corn was just one. I was like, I don't like the first one, so obviously there's going to be some way they're cooking in one of these eventually, and they just They don't. I even bought a 7-film collection on DVD for $5 at Walmart.
Wow, he's invested.
I know Deftones is a listener, and I sold him all of my Children of the Corn stuff that wasn't that DVD. So I hope you're enjoying it, pal.
That's funny.
Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah, Ultraviolet, really, really good. Because I know Kurt Wimmer's movies are they're just panned all the time, but I mean they're a lot of style, but it kind of is. 2000s was an experimental period of CGI for sure.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Gabe, what's your first
one? Let's go with, what year was this movie real quick? Let me double check. 1999's Wild Wild West with Will Smith.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
I don't know why, bro. I grew up watching this movie. And maybe there's just bias there because this movie was just on all the time, and I loved it growing up. And even like I saw it again as an adult, like 2 or 3 years later. It's just this. I mean, it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It's a bad movie, but it's a fun movie. You got this like steampunk rock like Confederate villain, and you got Will Smith, and you got who's the other dude in it? Oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. Kevin something. Help me out, Will. Do you know?
You're talking about his
Kevin
partner
Kline.
there, right?
Yeah, the partner, the
Oh.
scientist dude who makes
Kevin
all these
Kline.
like Kevin Kline. Yeah,
Kevin
so
Kline, yeah.
yeah, Will Smith, who's like a cool like badass. I don't know if he's like a bounty hunter cowboy or something like that, and then Kevin Kline's like this weird scientist guy that makes like a whole bunch of almost like Q from like 007. Sorry to spin on James Bond, Chris, but I mean it's kind of like that. Yeah. But it's so stupid, it's so bad, but it's like a lot of fun. Like it's like there hasn't been a movie like that I think takes like, you know, the whole, you know, Western cowboy thing and like melds it in with almost this science fiction outside of Cowboys and Aliens, which we won't talk about. But before Cowboys and Aliens, it was Wild Wild West, and I thought it was a fun movie, man. I know a lot of people like hated it when it came out. I had watched it a few times, and I had fun with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably like a, you know, like a 3.5 out of 5. But I know that when this movie came out, it was just trash. I don't think most people gave it over like a 1 star. I haven't looked at the ratings for it for a while, but I know for sure that it's probably rotten on Rotten Tomatoes.
Interesting.
Is this wasn't there like a music video that was associated with this film?
Yeah.
Yes.
By Will Smith and his rap career.
Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Neil C. Segura, but he makes like mashup songs, and his most popular one is called Wow Wow, and it is mostly constructed from the Will Smith music video for this, and it is quite hilarious.
It's
awesome. Really good too. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, this has a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 28% audience score, so really poorly rated. But I don't know, man, it's a fun movie. I had a good time with it. It's not that bad at all.
Yeah, I grew up watching like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with my brother. You know, him and I used to love Will Smith as kids, and that was one of the movies we always used to watch. It was like Wild Wild West, which we had like a VHS of that for the longest time, along with like Independence Day. So yeah, that was
those two were like on rotation with Men in Black. Yeah, all three.
Oh yeah, it was Men in Black, Independence Day, and Wild Wild West, which I mean I loved as a kid, but.
Yeah, I mean, check it out now. I mean, it's interesting watching it, like, you know, 20 years later, seeing how well it holds up. I still think it's a fun movie, but check it out if you guys haven't seen it. Wild Wild West.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. Really, really good. I can say I remember it. Don't like it, but I'll give it a second chance. I'll give it a second chance. All right, Mr. X, aka Nathan. What is your first pick, sir?
I think if we're going to talk about poorly received, but like extremely good, the way I like to rate things is based on 2 categories: is how cool the director's vision is, and how well they accomplish that vision. And that's if you go on my letterbox, that's like 100%. All the scores are based on those 2 things. It's Freddy Got Fingered. I love this film. This film is beyond peak. Every single line is a joke. Like there's so much detail, and there's so much detail and passion put into this like whopping pile of shit that is it really is a shiny turd. Like it's horrible. But if you really look at it, it's made so well, and I love it to death. It's so good. Strongly recommend checking that film out. Tom Green is a genius and does not get the credit he deserved for this film. Kind of a bummer it murdered his career, but maybe that's what he wanted. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. It's just so meta, and it's just perfect. And the film had a $14 million budget, and the most expensive shot in the entire film is in like a mid-credit scene at the end. That like it's a 2-second clip. It's like a house blowing up, and it's just like who would have the balls to do such a thing, you know? But yeah, it's great.
Did you hear about the because I think Tom Green was on like he was being interviewed or something like that, and they were asking about a director's cut. I guess there's like a director's cut floating
No
around
way.
with some extended
No
footage.
way.
Yeah, and he wanted to
No
do like
way.
a
That's crazy.
Blu-ray release for it, but I think the studio didn't want to give him the extended footage. So he's always advocated for the Freddy Got Fingered extended director's cut release. So maybe it'll
in
happen.
4K without us.
Yeah. There are some scenes that genuinely would benefit from the Atmos, like the helicopter scene, and then there's a deleted scene where you're at the dad's work and there's like a boat that flies over, and it's like it's weird. It's really weird, but yeah, strongly recommend Freddy Got Fingered. You're in for a ride.
It's a fun trick, man.
That you actually hadn't. I watched that with you and Murr. I don't think he listens to us, but I'll still mention.
Murr's
him.
been talking about it. I remember because it must have been right after you guys watched that because Murr was going on about it on the Discord.
Yeah, for a while.
It's so
like
good.
I don't know how to feel about that movie. Like I've never walked away from a movie and been like, I can't rate this. I don't know what I just really got through. You know, it was very interesting to say the least. But that is a great. And I'm super happy because like I think you and I were talking about this because you and I were watching Naked Lunch last night and we were talking about Freddy Got Fingered, and one of the things that I had mentioned is like reanalysis, and like you don't really see it on the 10 worst movies ever made list anymore. And even on Letterboxd, I believe it has like a 2.4, 2.5.
It's climbing. Yeah, it's a 2.9. When I first saw it, it was a 2.7.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's been going up.
Growing. Yeah. So, I mean, I always love that whenever movies get like second wins, like that's been happening with Jason Takes Manhattan lately, which a lot of people consider to be one of the worst in the franchise. That's been happening with Jason Goes to Hell. I'm pretty sure it's because Nick has a
he has a campaign and a website like advocating for the movie.
Yeah. He's been putting the work in on that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, but it's been happening.
Yeah,
they used to show that movie on Comedy Central all the time, though, like in the early 2000s.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, they spent a lot of money on it, so they're trying to get something out of it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys have heard of the Razzie Awards, right? Didn't it win like, the most amount of Razzie Awards?
Okay,
for like that year?
He showed up to it, rolled out his own red carpet at the Razzies. He went up to go accept the award, and he sat up there and played the recorder until they kicked him out of the venue.
Oh my god!
It's just Tom Green is a fucking legend, and
that's awesome.
The world was simply not ready for Freddy Got Fingered. If it came out like last year, it'd be like a 4.5 on Letterboxd, like everybody talking about it, blah blah blah.
Some experimental,
yeah. But ironically, that's like because it came out so ahead of its time. That's what makes it so good, at least partially. You know.
I know what you mean.
Peak.
Yeah, that's a great shout out. That's like the epitome of this list, man. Like that and the like Winnie the Pooh I had mentioned earlier is like the epitome of this list. But like I said, I'm super happy it's getting that reanalysis. So I guess it's back to me.
You only get one, Chase, not like 2 or 3 there to tie.
So this one actually might be a shock, and I might get a similar reaction as Chris over there. But it's got a 1.7 Letterboxd average. It was one of the lowest on my list.
It's not Revenge of the Fallen, is it?
No, dude, no, absolutely not. A 3.7 on IMDb, a 10% Rotten score, and it's number 83 on the bottom 100 of IMDb. And that is going to be Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I fucking love that movie, man. I fucking love that movie. I don't understand the hate, you know, like as the movie started going on, they really started to understand that these movies weren't really for young adults or adults. They really just started to understand that these are for kids and kids like Superman, you know. Of course, they can probably cater a little bit more to all audiences, but dude, what other Superman movie do you have him flying around and you can see the fucking wire? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so corny. And I believe his name is Radioactive Man or Nuclear Man.
Nuclear Man. That's what I was gonna ask you if this is the one with like Lex Luthor makes the nuclear guy or nuclear man or whatever, because he's like Superman's trying to destroy like all the nuclear weapons in the world or something.
Yeah, the Quest for Peace. And so he makes Nuclear Man, and the fight is so corny. It's so bad. I'll acknowledge all of that, but the 4K looks astounding. I'm surprised more people don't talk about. I mean, it's probably because not a lot of people like the movie except me. But
That
the
set
4K
is
looks
expensive.
incredible.
That's
Oh,
why
the-
nobody talks about it. That set is so expensive.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
$100.
Yeah, for 4
There's like
of
one
them.
good movie in there.
Yeah.
We're not paying $100 for one good movie.
Well, I think it's their marketing because they say 5 film collection when it's one of them is 2 different cuts. You've got the Donner cut, and then you've got just Superman 2
Yeah.
It
theatrical.
only has 4 movies for $100 in a shitty box.
It's
Yeah, no, that's
crazy,
fair.
bro.
Now my copium is I did a review for it. Probably one of my favorite thumbnails ever was I got the Steelbook set. I think was $100 whenever it popped out. 110.
Mhm.
So it was easier to cope with that set. But yeah, and it almost never goes on sale either. I forgot it didn't get a standalone release. Only 2 did, right?
2.
Yeah,
One has a
yeah.
standalone,
1 and 2.
does.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's
Yeah,
82 right now if you want it. It went under 100 finally, so
Yeah, I was stalking Best Buy deals as they were closing out, right? And my Best Buy had like 5 of these on the shelf. They
Yeah.
never went below $80. Where they went, I don't know. I don't know who's buying
Chase picked them up.
4.5
Yeah.
movies
Someone bought 'em
for
all.
$80.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
So-
all 4 of those movies. They're just nostalgic, you know. Like I grew up with those on VHS. I still have all 4 of them on VHS. There's it's just Christopher Reeve, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just like the third
Yeah.
one where you have like the negative Superman.
Yeah.
It's super dumb and corny, but I adore it, man. It's so good. Yeah, there's nothing really else I can say. I acknowledge it's a bad movie, but I will still rewatch it at least once a year. And it's a 4 out of 5 on my letterbox. That's how much I love that movie.
Damn.
Yeah. I love that movie.
So in America, you can't buy those individually, can you?
No.
You
No.
just said. You can in the UK.
Damn it.
It's because
So we
you
need
guys
to
have
hit up
whatever
Chris just to
reason,
get 1
your
and
laws.
2 and then we're good.
Yeah, UK is a bigger fan.
Oh, I thought you just meant buying 3 and 4.
Oh.
Yeah. We can only get 1 and 2, but you can get 1 through 4 separately. But it's like I
Yeah.
said, like your country actually likes to protect the consumers. Over here in America, they like to.
We get
It's
screwed.
just re-released it as well for some reason. They've just re-released Superman 1 to 4 again on 4K. Don't know what's different. It's coming out next month, I think. Bit weird. I haven't actually
No.
checked out the details for
Does
it.
it have
Yeah,
bigger
no.
rating
Chase is
circles
gonna
on the
spend more money.
spines?
The what is it? It's Peggy over there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Peggy
Peggy.
18.
BBFC,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those
British
those
Board of
signs,
Film
man.
Classification.
They're so
Yeah.
ugly. Why do they have to put them on the spine? They're
I
so
don't mind
ugly.
though.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
they look
wouldn't
good.
mind them if they were lateral and in the same spot. But whenever I see K Collector shelves, it's like it looks like a
Yeah, dude. It's well,
like a
like
bingo
you-
card. It's like a
Yeah.
bingo card.
Yeah.
You stamped it everywhere.
it's like you're
randomly.
stamping it.
They look
Yeah.
Why
good.
twice though? Like why? I don't understand that too. It's like why is there 2
Because
of
Yeah, why is there
You've
two?
got the British
So you
rating
really know.
and then the Irish one.
them? Oh,
Mm.
okay. Interesting.
Has it ever been
So
different?
yeah, this one is the Irish film classification. This is the BBFC.
Oh,
Is the difference like alcohol?
good to know.
Like
Yeah, I
is,
know, right? I mean,
is
they're both
Ireland-
18, so
into
it's
that.
like, can they like come together and admit like, okay, it's 18, so like we just need 1, not 2?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Make it half blue, half
Yeah.
pink.
Yeah, I don't actually know when
Make
they
it purple.
disagree, if ever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, is there ever a time it's like one's rated G and then the UK is over here like, oh no.
No.
It probably is some that's 15 and 18, but I'd
Interesting.
have to search for a long time
Yeah.
Yeah.
trying to see if there's none there.
That's interesting. Yeah, I ultimately they're fine. Like I've got a few. Like they released Bill and Ted Face the Music over there before the Scream or Shout just did over here. I imported it and it's got the slip. But yeah, like I can see the signs
Yeah.
all the way over here, man. And I'm at least 75 feet away from
Yeah,
the shelf
dude.
right now.
I have 1 or 2 as well.
Yeah.
Overpowering.
I got a
Yeah.
like what was it? The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. I had ordered them from Zavi actually, and they had them
Mm.
on there, but they were stickers. So luckily, I was able to peel them
Oh,
off,
yeah.
which I was not
On
expecting.
steelbooks
'Cause I,
and nice stuff they are.
Dude,
yeah, that's good. That's good.
The whole reason I was in the 4K Discord to begin with, and here you go, Gabe. I was looking for a copy of Oppenheimer. I could not find it.
My man.
None of my local stores got it. None of the Targets, none of the Best Buys, whatever.
Yeah.
I was just scouring, and I ended up ordering a steelbook from Zavi, and it was like way cheaper than the scalpers on eBay.
Yeah.
And once you throw away the packaging it comes with, it's the same damn thing. Doesn't have
Yeah.
the funny
Yeah.
circles, no nothing.
They're not gonna waste money stamping an 18 logo on a steelbook just for the UK and
Yeah. I'm gonna print the
Yeah.
same one and just
Terrible.
get some stickers on it.
Yep.
embed it into the
I
image.
bought Oppenheimer. Sorry,
No, go for it.
I bought Oppenheimer day one. Still never seen that movie.
Oh my god!
Chris, you're about to get kicked out of here by
I
Gabe.
know.
Dude, it's the
I don't
first
watch movies,
thing
nor
you
do I
see
like
when
them.
you put the movie on is a window-shattering bass explosion. Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you just gotta
Come on,
put the
man.
disc in, dude. You just
Yeah,
gotta
you
put
just
the
gotta
disc
watch
in.
it, dude.
It might
Yeah, dude, and you got
explode,
that
though.
crazy
I'm not
setup.
actually break the windows.
Yeah, I know. With Chris's setup, like when the nuke goes off,
Oh
that
boy.
shit, like
His
the
house might
windows on his house they're gonna shatter.
It's gonna be like that scene in Back to the Future when he turns it up to 11 and
Yeah.
cranks the guitar.
I need a much
Yeah.
bigger subwoofer. My
Oh,
current one is
Chris,
not big enough
man.
at all.
I might need you to recommend the best alcohol I can get drugged to right now because you're making me really depressed.
I'd happily.
No, Chris, it's worth checking out. Like we talked about it on here. When they do the Trinity test, that whole sequence, like when I think
Oh.
about that, I still get chills just like thinking
Yeah.
about
It's
it. Like
great.
how it
Such a
felt
good
in the
movie.
theater. Like it was truly something.
I do
Yeah,
want to
amazing.
watch it. It's just a big undertaking for me to sit down and watch that movie.
It is 3 hours. So it's
It is,
3
yeah, it's a
hours,
long
3.5
runtime.
hours. I don't remember, but yeah.
It goes pretty fast. I remember when the movie was over in the theaters, I was like, "It's over," and I looked at the
Yeah.
clock, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, "Wow."
I've only seen it like 10
Also-
times, but it feels quicker every time I watch it.
Yeah.
Knowing me, I probably wouldn't like it. Just
Probably.
because
You'd be
it
like,
seems
You
like
would.
something I would do.
Chris, you would. The sound
you
design
would.
alone is
Yeah.
you would like it for the sound.
It's not Atmos though, or EDS.
It doesn't need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it's a fantastic 5.1 though. Christian
Yeah.
Nolan always does amazing
Mhm.
5.1s. It's just a bit
Uh,
weird though because it's 2023. Well, when that came out.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal is with that. I don't know why. I'd be curious to see. Like, he never mentions in any interviews why he doesn't do that.
I know why. Because it has to be part of IMAX 6-track. Because and that only allows
that makes
6
sense.
tracks. He
That
can't be
makes
bothered
sense.
he can't be bothered to make another track for Atmos or DTSX.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Well, he's the god, so he knows best. So
You sure
we
about
just follow his lead.
Whatever you say, Gabe.
We just pray at his feet and just let
Yeah,
him
exactly.
do whatever he wants.
that? I thought it was Michael Bay.
It's Michael Bay.
He's my
The
god.
last night.
The last night
Oh,
makes him
man.
God. Chris, is your second movie a Michael Bay movie by chance?
Hmm.
No. It's 5 movies.
Wait, what?
Okay, well, I'll pick one, but I was going to say the Tremors sequels after 2. So
Oh hell
3,
yeah, dude.
4, 5, 6, 7. I think up to 7. But I was going to choose specifically How the Legend Began, the 4th one, because that is my second favorite Tremors movie because it's How the Legend Began. I don't know if you people seen it.
You people.
Yeah. You people.
You guys, sorry. I don't know if you guys have seen the 4th one, but I really like it. And I don't understand why people hate it so much. Because it's just fun. Don't think about it. It's Tremors. It's Burt Gummer doing Burt Gummer things, kind of. If you've seen it, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's
Interesting.
just-
So
all
you think all of them are underrated? Is there one that you think is the weakest one while you're talking about all of
the
them?
weakest one is definitely the last one. Shrieker Island. Shrieker Island, I think it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
the one from a few years ago.
They're all great in my opinion. You can't go wrong with any of them. Obviously, the first one is just a fantastic movie, but they're all just movies about giant worms. You can't go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I remember because I'm going through your letterbox on each of them. I remember you talking about watching all of them around this or Christmas time of last year. Weirdly enough, you were going through a Tremors bender around Christmas. But I like the first one, but I wouldn't say I'm a fan. I appreciate it. I respect it. I think it's a fine movie and stuff. So I've just never really ventured out past that, but I know it has its like really, 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 really hardcore fans out there for that entire series.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't even know it was like the first one. I didn't even know that was a big movie. I was just shown it when I was probably about 5 and just loved it instantly.
Yeah, man. Like,
Then
did
watch
you
all
know
the other
that
ones.
in universities, I believe it's Harvard, I could be incorrect,
Yeah,
but there's a
something like
universities that and like some film schools that showcase Tremors as the perfect script for like script writing and stuff like that. Like it's showcased.
probably
as
wouldn't
the
go that
script.
far, even though I do love it.
Yeah.
But
mean-
it's still just fun. It's Kevin Bacon in the first
Kevin
one.
Bacon.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just think about it. The pacing, the content, there's not really anything boring in it. Even if you don't find the subject matter appealing, no, you know, anything that's perfect isn't going to be for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the pacing, the structure, the dialogue, and everything like that. Like, even though I found it to be a fine movie, I recognize why people absolutely love it. And shout out that 4K by Arrow. Looks insane.
Mm-hmm.
So does the second one.
Yeah, second one looks good too.
Yeah. Aftershock.
Now
right?
just do the rest of them on 4K.
Yeah. Eventually, I'm sure. But yeah,
I know
dude,
they moved to
that's
all
awesome.
2K digital intermediates and got worse and worse budget wise, but they can do them on 4K. It'll be fine.
No, absolutely, man. Yeah, that's I just went through and liked all of yours. You gave a lot of them 4.5 stars. Hell yeah, dude. I respect that.
I could see Arrow doing a cool box set with those if they
Um,
ever did release them. You know,
They did just release a box set of all of them together, but they were the same remasters and scans for the box set that they did 16 or so years ago when Blu-ray just came out.
it was
2006,
Blu-ray,
yeah,
though, right?
in 2008. So, like, they didn't bother rescanning them, putting them on new discs. They're still 4 films on 2 50 gig discs, which is not great.
Yeah.
Got new packaging though.
Yeah,
You
Something.
pay for, man.
collectors be like,
Packaging.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the cardboard.
Yeah.
indeed.
Oh, great shout out. Yeah, I wasn't expecting Tremors on there, but I definitely see the nod on there. So great shout out on that, Chris. Thank you for that. Will, what is your number two?
Yeah, so my last pick was a little under the radar, so I'm actually going to go a little more mainstream with this one. I'm going to go with Resident Evil, the first film adaptation of Resident Evil.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't watch this every year, but it's I'll say this, it's probably the one out of that entire franchise that I will watch over again. Just because I think it's the most I guess it's the closest to the games in terms of what the original intent was. But I think it has some redeeming qualities to it. I mean, I'm a fan of Mila Jovovich. We talked about Ultraviolet. We kind of touched on that. I just think she's got really good charisma as an actress, but I like Michelle Rodriguez in that movie too. I think they worked really well together on screen. And I like certain things about the movie, like Paul, what's his name? W.S. Anderson, I think his name was. He has gone on record to say that he was very influenced by certain movies, like particularly like in terms of the music in that movie. He was heavily inspired by Carpenter, which is cool. So you can see some of those references in there. There's actually another movie. I'm not going to shout it out, but I'll reference it because it's very similar to a movie from the 80s called Warning Sign, which is a pretty cool, another like science fiction horror film where people are kind of trapped in this underground laboratory. If you watch Warning Sign, you'll know where Resident Evil probably got a lot of their inspiration from. But yeah, I just think that first movie, it's just a lot of fun. Like even watching it today, and that whole scene at the end, I'm trying to remember it correctly. I think when she's fighting the lickers in the hallway or whatever that is, they actually used like real puppets for that, which I thought was cool. Like especially in a time where, like we talked about Ultraviolet, like having like really bad CG, which a lot of those movies at the time had. And this movie definitely has some of that. But you know, I always appreciate when they still, even though they could use CG, they still stick to practical effects, which at that time, the CG was starting to become like the big thing that everybody was doing. So I always appreciated the first movie because obviously the ones after that just got just like worse and worse. You know, they just got crazy. So
They get crazy.
but yeah, Resident Evil is my pick, and I'm sure most of you guys have seen it. But I think out of all of them, that's the one that I can sit through where it's not off the wall. Like I don't forget who mentioned it, but like as the series went on, they just started drawing from so many different things and just kind of throwing everything together. It was just became a mess.
What lost lost the identity of being part of the games, and the first one does have more reference to the mythos of the game and all that stuff. But I will shout out, I do like, I think it's like the fourth one, Afterlife. It's like they're in a prison or some shit like that. I don't remember the details of it, but I remember seeing that in theaters, and it was a fun movie. It's even when they're really bad, I think just Mila, what's her name, Mila Jovovich, just she's a good action star. She's a good screen presence. I think she does a really good job whenever she's in a project. It's just she's in a lot of shitty projects. is the issue. But she's so if she worked with a competent director or writer, I think that she can she's
married to him.
Put some.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she is married. There's the issue right there.
A lot of his movies.
Yeah, Mila Jovovich is great. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this little known movie called The Fifth Element, but that movie's fantastic.
Oh yeah,
totally
I've never heard of that. What is that?
Never heard of it.
So,
First time.
I think you guys should check that one out.
Yeah, I got to go on like a Mila Jovovich kick again and like rewatch a lot of her other movies. She did like a science. What was it? An alien movie too, like The Fourth Kind or something like that. I remember watching.
I remember that one was really
back in the day. Yeah. But yeah, like with Resident Evil, it's just more like I guess a lot of it's like nostalgia for me because just around that time, I was like, and I'm still into the Resident Evil games. I think the games kind of had quite a comeback with some of the recent incarnations. If you guys have happened to have played those, and like Nick said, he's never played the game, so for him, it's easier for him to digest the movies without having that the context of the games. But like for somebody like me, like I grew up with those games, so as the movies kind of went on, it just got harder and harder to get into them just because they became so far from what the original what the inspiration was. But fun fact about that first movie, they actually were in talks, and in fact I think he had actually written a script for it. George A. Romero was originally intended to direct the film adaptation of the first Resident Evil movie, but I guess
that sounds sick.
It would have been, and you guys can probably look this up. I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but I think it talks about what that movie would have been like if Romero had directed. And I don't, they made a whole documentary on this, but the script that he wrote was so violent and so bloody that the studio was like, you know what, we love this, but we can't market this to a wider audience. And that's why they ended up going with Paul W.S. Anderson, because he was more in line with the studio's vision of maintaining some semblance of what the games represented, but at the same time trying to bring it to a wider audience as like a more straightforward action horror movie. So it's always interesting to like think about what that movie would have been like. Like, can you just imagine like if Romero did that, it would have been fucking cool, man.
Yeah,
that's
crazy. Apparently, there's a documentary in the works about that. I don't know if it already came out, but there's a documentary with hidden like work print footage or stuff like that.
Okay, that's probably what I was thinking of because I remember reading about that at some point.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, so yeah, that's my. I guess we can call that's more of my like mainstream pick. So
yeah, no, that's a great one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Nick, what is your number 2, numero dos?
I was actually I was thinking about putting a Resident Evil movie on here. The one I was thinking was Retribution, which is the one where they're like in this gigantic like underwater complex that can like perfectly model like Russia and Japan, and there's like Russian zombies with machine guns on the back of cars that just can't do anything.
I remember that one.
They got stormtrooper level accuracy. It's great. But my actual pick is when I watched this movie, I was told this was just like the biggest piece of shit imaginable. Now, it is a Halloween movie, so take that in mind. To the Halloween community we like to overreact, and I was told this is like terrible. And then I watched it and I was like, fuck all of you. That was actually pretty good. And then I watched it again. I'm like, this is actually amazing. This is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, baby. I utterly love this movie. I think this movie's phenomenal. And I'm waiting patiently, ever so patiently, for this movie to get the sort of wraparound treatment that Halloween 3 got. Where in like 30 years, everyone would be like, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is actually really good. And I'll be just over here being like, fuck all of you. I always do that.
He's putting it on record right now.
Yeah.
So in 30 years, right, when people start to love Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 again, you can come back to this video and see that I was always a supporter. But I think this
Yeah.
movie is just like talking about like what X said about like directors' visions. This movie just has such its own identity, being part of the Halloween franchise, where it's very much like Rob Zombie filmmaking, and I think that's why a lot of people don't like it. I happen to love Rob Zombie's both his movies and his music, so
Yeah.
that's probably why. But I think this movie's just got such its own identity because especially considering how much his first movie was just kind of like retreading the original. I think Laurie Strode in this movie. I forget the actress who plays her in this.
Scout Taylor Compton, I think that's her name.
Scout Taylor Compton, I believe. She does
Yeah.
such a great job portraying just like version of Laurie that's just like absolutely broken because of the trauma that she had. I love Malcolm McDowell's Loomis of him just is such an asshole, which is just so far from like what like the original series did, where Loomis was like this likable crazy guy. Rob Zombie makes him just this like absolute ass, especially in the second one. And I think Tyler Mane is, especially in this movie, is the most brutal version of Michael Myers we have ever gotten. I probably say like if you put him toe to toe up against like every other Michael Myers, you'd probably kick their ass. I just think this movie is just, it's got such its own identity, and it's such this like bleak, dark look at like trauma, especially from our main characters. In addition, just being this just ultra grisly slasher movie. This, I don't want to like spoil it, but there's a scene where like a character walks in to this bathroom and just a desecrated corpse of like, I believe it's someone they know, and just has like the most insane like emotional breakdown that I've ever seen in a movie, and it's in a fucking slasher movie. So I'm waiting patiently for people to come around to this movie like they have with Halloween 3.
Yeah.
I think people are starting to come around to it. I mean, credit to you for shouting that out, dude, because I've seen that movie and it is like very bleak. In fact, and as far as like violent scenes, I remember the hospital scene being pretty brutal. Like when he's I think when it's like he's stabbing the nurse at the nurse's desk there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that there's a weird story behind that too. I don't know if you guys know about this, but like I guess Rob Zombie has gone on record saying that with the first movie, he was so restrained by the Weinstein Company at the time as far as what he wanted to do with it. And, you know, he kept trying to take it in a different direction and do something unique and do something just unconventional. And the studio was like, no, we need to do it this way. And this is what we want. And he talked about, it went on record talking about his frustrations making that first movie. And although it was a success, like financially, it wasn't what he wanted. He had such a horrible time making that first movie, just being told no over and over again and having to essentially just make the movie that the studio wanted. That with the second one, he was just like, you know what, fuck this. I'm just going to go in the completely different direction. And I don't know, man, like regardless of how I feel about it personally, like I got to respect the fact that he was like, you know, fuck the studio. I'm just going to do it my way. And this is what they're going to get. And they're going to have to find a way to make it work, you know?
Yeah.
But
I think people are coming around to it, because I think when I first logged it on Letterboxd a couple of years ago, because obviously I had seen it before then, but when I finally got around to logging it, it was at like a 1.8, I think, and it's, when I looked, it's jumped up to like a 2.3. So I think in the wake of the new Halloween trilogy, people are sort of retroactively looking back at, especially Rob's second entry, and sort of looking back critically on it. This is also a movie that's got like a very different director's cut. I've seen both versions, but I forget the director's cut ending, I believe, is really bleak, and the original kind of ends on like a less bleak note in a sense. But I know there were talks of a third one by Rob Zombie, and I think it did kind of start going somewhere, and then for whatever reason, it just never made it. And then eventually Halloween 2018 came along. But yeah, they were going to do a third one, and I forget. I think just contracts ran out, and it never got anywhere.
Yeah, and I feel like Zombie at that point was kind of just done, you know. With that.
Yeah, he would. I think he went on to make, I think, Lords of Salem after that, which is very much like a him.
Again, underrated.
Great movie too.
Underrated gem of his.
Really good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rob Zombie's Halloween too.
Yeah, good pick, man.
Great shout out. Gabe, how are you going to even get remotely close to what Nick just put up there, man. How can you even match that level of energy?
I can't, man. I can't. I don't think I can. I was actually gonna go on Letterboxd and like downscore Halloween 2, so that way it doesn't. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Keep logging it half star.
Yeah, he's like, you think it's a 2.2? It's a 1.8 again. I don't know, man. I'm like in my early 2000s mode here, so I'm actually gonna go with another comedy movie. This is a well-known comedy movie. I actually don't know. I haven't read up on like how people have taken it 20 years later, but I'm going with Scary Movie 2, man. I fucking
really?
love Scary Movie 2.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Is it that low rated?
It's a very. I think. I mean, I gotta double check it again, but I remember when it first came out, it was very, very like critically panned. I think audience score was pretty low too. If one of you guys have it up, let me know. But
2.7
yeah,
on Letterboxd. That's the one where he gets rolled up into a joint, right?
yeah. There's a lot of shit that happens in this one, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. So like the first one, I think when it first came out, the first Scary Movie, it was pretty like well received with audiences, and even I mean I know a lot of critics trashed it, but a lot of critics like just appreciated the that satire and that type of comedy. And then the second one came out, and people were like, "Oh, this is just the same shit again, just dialed up to 10." And I'm like, "What's wrong with that?" I'm like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You have the Exorcist thing, you have the Nike basketball scene, you got the whole Michael Jackson fucking satire. Oh no, that's the third one, I think, with the Michael Jackson satire. I was thinking of the clown. It is the one with the number 2 with the clown coming. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil that scene. But yeah, dude, this movie's just super raunchy. It's super. It knows what it wants to be, I guess is what I'm saying. And going back to what Nathan said, with directors and like the
director's vision.
visions, yeah. I mean, the Wayans, they knew what these. I mean, that's when these movies really started falling off, is when the Wayans kind of fell off from the franchise. And I think that Scary Movie 2, they knew what they wanted it to be. It's like, we're just gonna ramp it up. We're gonna make it even more grotesque and more crazy, and it was that much more fun for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always. The dude with the freaking weird hand, I don't even know how to describe him, the waiter guy, and he's stuffing it in the turkey, and everyone's just staring.
Yeah.
My germs.
Like,
my germs.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious, dude. That movie, I've watched it so many times, and I still laugh my ass off every single time that I watch it. And I think, yeah, it has a pretty low score on Rotten Tomatoes. It looks like 13% for critics and
That's crazy.
52% audience score. So I think audiences liked it a lot more. But I just thought, honestly, I thought it was a clever follow-up to the first one, because the first one I think was more focused on slashers.
Yeah.
Like with Scream and everything like that. I think this one kind of opened it up a little bit, where the Wayans brothers were like, let's just do a whole bunch of different movies. I mean, they obviously focused on horror still, but there were still some satire with other movies at the time. And dude, they're just hilarious. It's like it's a fun movie. It's one of those movies where you just turn your brain off and eat popcorn and laugh your ass off. And I think they accomplished it. You know what I mean? So ever since it came out, I saw this in theaters when it came out. My dad was like shaking his head the whole time, because he's the one that took me to see it. Yeah, he was like, "What the hell did I just pay for?" I loved it, and a few years later, watched it again. I watch it like almost every year now. It's just one of those movies that it's just fun to watch. So I have to go with Scary Movie 2, man. I mean, I don't think they've made them that way anymore. I like the third one. I like Scary Movie 3, but I think that's when it started going like PG-13 and a lot of the humor kind of dialed down. But 1 through 2 are very close to my heart. I think those.
Which
movies
one's
are
the one
hilarious.
with Charlie Sheen? Remember when Charlie Sheen was on his big?
Was that 3 or 4?
I thought it was.
That's
4.
the one where the person has the erection and he falls out of the
apartment building
balcony.
or something.
Yeah, and then he lands on his erection.
Yeah.
And this is like the opening scene, and then like his body is bowed down, but he causes a crater in the earth. I think that's 4. Or no, that is 3. No, because 4 is the one that stars Dr. Phil and Shaquille O'Neal at the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
that's the best
that's
scene in
the
all of
Saw.
Scary Movie.
That's the Saw one, yeah. Where like he has to do a
better.
free throw to get like free from the trap, and he's like missing every single one.
And then he cuts off the wrong leg.
Oh yeah. Oh god, man. I mean, that
So
3 is
good.
still like I still enjoy 3. I think they dialed it down a little bit. It got a little bit too safe with 3, but it's still a solid movie. I think Will just left us. I think he
had the Decepticon microphone.
he just got teleported to wherever the freaking monoliths go in 2001. But yeah, I think 1 and 2 close to my heart. I think that they're freaking hilarious even to this day. So I got to shout out Scary Movie 2.
That's a great one, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that whole series is great. You know, parodies really started falling off in the late 2000s because you had all those insert description here movie, like epic movie,
Yeah.
disaster
Yeah.
movie, everything. But those are ones that I think that stood the test of time amongst all else. So that's a great
Yeah.
shout out, man.
Did
Cool.
they do a fifth one?
Yeah, they did. It was
And
terrible.
They did.
Yeah, it was
How was
bad.
it?
4
I didn't,
and 5 were
know if they
really
did a fifth
bad.
one.
They're remaking it. They're rebooting the series essentially.
Are you serious?
That might be fun.
Hey, there's
Yeah,
lots
but-
of new horror movies to make
Yeah,
fun
there's some
of.
material
So
there.
Yeah,
it's
there
got new.
is.
It's reloaded. They should call it
maybe.
Scary Movie
They
Reloaded.
reloaded.
No, they just gotta
That's
call
true.
it Scary Movie.
Make fun of some like A24 movies. That'd be interesting.
Mhm.
Hereditary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what popped into my mind too.
Yeah. That would be really good. But hell yeah. Nathan, what are you going
Yes.
to end us with,
Yeah.
sir?
So
Grand finale.
never have I seen a film that is so obviously poetry presented as prose. I'm gonna have to go with Megalopolis.
Oh, I still haven't seen it.
This movie is so different from any other movie I've ever seen. It's like very obviously meant to be taken figuratively, but it is not presented in that way or marketed in that way or discussed in that way that I've seen so far. And yeah, I went to go see it the last day that it was showing in my area because I got sick. And I'm very bummed because I really want to go see it again, but I can't. But yeah, I took some Stanley Kubrick themed edibles, Clockwork Lemon. I was blasted out of my mind for the whole film. And it is just such a treat to see something that is so obviously made. Like, you know when you go see a movie and you forget that it's a movie because you're just so immersed and so like built into it? Megalopolis is the complete opposite. Every moment I'm like, why did they choose to do this? This actor is doing something like crazy, or like, what is Adam Driver thinking right now when he's like giving a lesson to I think her name's Nathalie Emanuel. He's like, oh yeah, you're so reckless. Go back to the club, and then immediately goes back to just so serious. The movie is filled with takes that were like the actor or actress clearly thinks that is going to be an outtake, but they are the picked take. There's times where Aubrey Plaza like totally flubs her line, but then they pick that to be in the movie, and yeah, it's awesome. It's one of those films that like if you go into it expecting something really serious, you're not going to be able to take very much from it. But I think it's so cool that Coppola decided to just like full send it, balls to the wall, do something entirely different. My only regret with this is that they didn't get to expand break out of the fourth wall as they intended. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but Coppola was interested in getting Amazon Alexas put into theaters during the films for these. Yes, no, hear me out. There's a scene where Adam Driver is like addressing the city and talking to interviewers and stuff, and they were going to use AI to take a question from the audience and have AI Adam Driver talk back to them and respond to it, which is just so fucking bonkers. That's what they did at the film festival that it premiered at. They actually had Adam Driver come out in person in front of the screen and talk to somebody from the audience. And it's just like that kind of stuff. Like, I think how much was this movie? Was it like
120 million?
$120 million.
Well, if his own money.
Balls, absolute balls on Coppola to just even attempt something like this. His legacy is secured. Genuinely, there's so much value in this movie. I really hope that people go back and watch it again, and they don't expect like The Godfather Part 2, but they expect something that's different. And it's my favorite Adam Driver performance, like easily. Like I love Adam Driver. He's amazing in everything he is, but this is just peak. It's peak Adam Driver.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you brought that one up. I think I'm the only other one here that's seen Megalopolis. Yeah.
I was gonna see it instead of The Substance just to piss you off.
No,
but...
you weren't. I do want to publicly say this because like as soon as I got out of the theater, I mean, Nathan, you said it perfectly, man. Like I went in there thinking like this was gonna be another Apocalypse Now, a sci-fi futuristic and I gave it a scathing ass review on the channel over here, man. Like I fucking trashed it, but then Aid went and saw it the next day, or no, the same time. I think he saw it like 2 hours after me. And then he had Discord called me. He was like, dude, that movie was so funny. I was like, bro, that movie pissed me off. What do you mean? But then I started like hearing him talk about it and how funny it was. I was like, yeah, actually that was funny. You know, like the, not really a spoiler with how loose I'm saying, but like the Cupid's arrow scene.
Dude, yes. One of the funniest scenes. Funny, dude.
Yeah. Like it's not trying to be funny. Like it's really trying to be so serious, but there parts of this really come off as sketch comedy. You know what I mean? Like, yes. It really does because it's so segmented and then some of it's so long. It's again, like, yeah, I never thought of that. But like you said, like people probably thought this were outtakes, you know, because like there's some really weird parts, man. Like Aubrey Plaza is the best part. And like you said, like she was bumbling, you know?
Yeah. Dude, it feels like it's starring real people instead of like these imaginary characters who are so perfect or whatever. Like, it's so fake it's real. It's that what is it called where it's like it's like it looks really close to human but not enough so it looks horrifying. What is that effect called? Whatever.
Uncanny
Valley.
Yes, Uncanny Valley, but for a movie, because like it's like more like a stage play than a movie, but it's still a movie at the same time. Oh, and I gotta shout out to Shia LaBeouf's performance. That guy's a psychopath, but he fucking kills it in this movie. He is pure evil in this movie, and he is just
he's great.
He's so good.
It's quite the comeback for him on that one. I know he's been in some things here and there. Like he had a movie a couple years ago called Tax Collector, but yeah, he really everybody that was in it. That I mean, Esposito was in there. Yeah, it was Giancarlo. Yeah, he was probably the worst in there, but he was still good. You know, it's just like he just seemed like he wasn't given any direction. Like he was just told to just work.
Yeah, he's just a dude. He's just a dude in that movie. Like you really expect him to do like some diabolical evil shit because that's every role he's had the past 5 years or whatever.
Yeah,
he's just a guy. He's just a guy.
He's just a guy that's just like constantly at ends with some people, but not in a diabolical sense. Like he has genuine motives for the most part.
Yeah. Is that Adam Driver in that scene talking about the club in your profile?
Yes. So go back to the club.
I see him. I just clicked. I was like, oh, this shit. That's the one.
That scene is crazy because Adam Driver is literally just monologuing to this woman about how reckless she is and how he doesn't want to interact with her. Blah blah blah. Like that monotone the whole time, and then randomly is. So go back to the club, and then immediately goes back into that same exact monologue. It's
I gotta watch this movie.
It's good.
I want to devote 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is.
2 hours, 10 minutes or so.
It's a little over 2 hours, or it's almost 2.5. I think it's 2 hours and like 18 or something like that.
Damn, that movie went by so fast, man.
Like, it's fast. It's really fast. It's like sections are slow and agonizing, but the movie as a whole is extremely fast.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Well, I think that was some great picks, some great conversation pieces on there. And like we had discussed before we started rolling, guys. So since it is the 50th episode, Chris, Nick, Nathan, do you guys have any burning questions for the From Screen to Shelf cast?
Yes,
before we
end?
Do. Yes.
Ask away.
I think, I hope this is a good question. I think it will be. For each of you, if you could pick one movie to bring back to theaters for one showing and it was going to be a packed theater, what would that movie be?
Oh crap.
Right now, Halloween 3.
Damn, Halloween 3. That'd be crazy, man. You know, I was teetering on that, but I'm trying to think of like a classic comedy. Young Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
Young Frankenstein or Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would be
Spaceballs. I think Spaceballs would play well too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, well, no, I'm not going to say that one because that one comes out of theaters I was going to say 2001. I'm like, that just was in theaters in my town like a year. Let's say, shit, man. This is a tough one. This is going to sound weird because I don't bring this movie up too much, but I'm going to say the original Indiana Jones. And the reason being is just because I remember seeing that in a screening 10 years ago, and it was a packed screening, and it was just fun. just seeing everyone just kind of super excited for, just to see a timeless classic like that. So I would have to say Indiana Jones, the first one. It's a weird pick, but just because that was one of the few movies where I saw a re-release pack screening of a classic movie.
So you have a connection where
that
hey,
communal
I can guarantee
experience
this
with everyone. Yeah, and it's cool seeing that. So I would maybe pick the first Indiana Jones.
Yeah, those are awesome answers. I like all those.
Yeah, that was a great question, man. I mean, just thinking about it, like if I could see Spaceballs in theaters right now, man,
That'd be
I'd kill, bro.
The euphoria.
That'd be a blast.
If there was only one showing in fucking Denver, I would be on a flight. Like,
Boom.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'd be there.
It's crazy, man. Like just the last would be so contagious. It'd be unreal. Nick, I know you said you had one. What was your question for us, sir, or for one of us?
This is for all of you guys.
All
So
right.
this is a hypothetical situation. You have an unlimited amount of money, and you can get whatever actor that's still alive that you want to make any movie you want. What are you making? It can be like a sequel to something, a remake, an original idea. If you can make anything you would want, like what would you make?
That's a fucking hard question, man. So
That's a really
unlimited
good
budget, whatever actor's alive, and what kind of movie it would be genre-wise?
Just like anything. Like if there's like a sequel to something, if you want to make a sequel to something, if you want to have like your own idea, just like what would you make if you could make whatever movie?
Damn, that's
Shit.
a thought-provoking one.
All right, I think I got it.
All right, well, fire away. 'cause I
Yeah,
don't.
fire away.
Well,
Yeah, I'm still trying to think.
Well, mine's a bit more personal because I'm a big fan of the I Am Legend novel.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the Omega Man with Charlton Heston when I was a kid, and I loved that movie. That's like one of the first movies my dad showed me. It was like, he was a big Charlton Heston fan.
Yeah.
So then, of course, getting older, like reading about how they were apparently supposed to make one in the 90s with Arnold Schwarzenegger as the lead. Like that would have been wild. And then obviously we got the 2000s, I think it was 2007 when the Will Smith movie came out. And that was like a big thing at the time because I was like, just again, I read that book so many times. I'm a big fan of Richard Matheson as a writer. I have The Legend of Hell House and a lot of his other works. And but I Am Legend, like I read that book so many times. I still have the original copy on my shelf. That's like the cover's literally falling off of it because it's how old it was. In fact, it's a copy that I got from a library and I just never returned it. I just kept it.
Oh shit.
And I still have it. It's like 20 years ago.
Bro.
So I would get, I mean, I don't know if I would want it to be big budget. I would want to do it on like a limited budget, but like everything that I didn't like about the 2007 film, because I think that movie had it had a lot of promise. It had a lot of opportunity. And I think they didn't necessarily capitalize on that. I didn't really care for the overuse of like the CG, but I would have made it more like the book, and I would have just made it horrifying. I would have really focused on more of those like the character moments, like with Will Smith and the dog. I thought they did that really well, and that's something the dog wasn't necessarily represented like it was in the book, but I think they had a lot going for it in that movie, and they just didn't really quite get there for me. But as far as an actor to play it, Tom Hardy, I think would be really good in something like that, especially because I haven't necessarily seen Tom Hardy in a horror film, so to speak, or anything like that. But I think he's just so dynamic as an actor, and he's done movies where there's one movie that you guys should check out. I mean, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm misremembering the name of the movie, but it's just Tom Hardy, and the whole movie is him in a car having conversations on the phone.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Oh yeah,
don't
where he's
remember the name
driving,
of it.
right? Yeah,
He's
I
just
remember.
driving.
Yeah,
And
and the
that's
whole
the
movie
whole
takes
film.
place in the car. Yeah, and he's just
It's
taking
the
these
whole
phone calls
film,
back to
but-
back. Yeah,
And I remember hearing about it and saying, how am I going to sit through movies where it's just he's literally in a car for the whole movie? But he sold it, and he was so engaging. And when I saw that movie, I was like, damn, he would be really good as playing like almost like a Robert Neville type character where he's alone at like the end of the world or something like that. He would sell that really well. So that's what I would do. It would be I Am Legend done as faithful as possible to the novel and Richard Matheson's original story with Tom Hardy.
yeah.
Locke is
Yeah,
the
Locke with
name
an
of it.
E.
Locke. Yeah, that's the name of it. Yeah.
Yeah, check it out, guys, if you haven't seen it. Again, like not a movie that I ever expected to enjoy, but it was just so engaging, so unexpected.
You'll know it's the
No.
right movie because the picture is just Tom Hardy driving.
Yeah, that's how I knew. It just seemed like this. Out of steering
Yeah.
wheel.
What's the budget on that movie?
Lock,
Does it say? Yeah,
$2,
$2.
including
Yeah,
his
however
salary.
It's like
Picture
buying
costs
Tom
$2
Hardy a
insurance.
cup of coffee.
2 million. Yeah.
2
$2 million?
million?
2
Okay, so
million.
yeah.
Oh, is it A24?
Oh, it is?
No way.
Oh,
Didn't even know
Really?
that.
yeah. Lock
That's
official
crazy.
trailer A24. That's crazy.
Wow.
From 10 years ago.
I remember I
Damn.
rented that movie. It was pretty decent. I didn't know it was an A24 movie.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Holy
that's
shit.
crazy.
That's cool.
That's a
Gabe,
good
what's
one.
your answer? That was a great one.
This is gonna be a selfish, kind of personal. Like Will said, I don't think I've mentioned it. Maybe you and I talked about it, Chase. But I'm a huge X-Files fan. Like I'm a huge
We did because you were like,
X-Files
yeah,
fan.
let's
Yeah,
do an episode. I didn't know you
dude,
were a fan too.
oh my god,
Yeah.
dude, I'm an X-Files fanatic. So I would honestly make a big budget X-Files like finale movie because the way they
Yeah.
ended the series recently, it was trash and
Mhm.
rushed and it was shit. So I would honestly just make a big budget IMAX X-Files finale movie, and yeah, that'd be my like dream come true. I fucking love the X-Files. And the way that
Hell
it
yeah.
ended recently was depressing and it hurts my soul. So
Yeah.
that would be my answer, man. That's a good question. Chase, I mean, I want to see what Chase is gonna do because
Dude, I'm gonna have the
He's
most
gonna do some
basic
quirky
ass
shit.
answer. So it's kind of as we know, Fury Road's my favorite movie of all
Mm.
time. It's kind of I like to answer that question. I kind of want to go one or two ways. It's like I'd love to see George Miller and Mel Gibson team up one last time and say fuck it all. You know what I mean? 200 million Fury Road style. I'm old as fuck. Don't fuck with me style movie. You know. But then also there's another part of me that's realistic and understands that George Miller is getting old and Furiosa just tanked. So in a fantasy land, I'd like to see The Wasteland get made with Tom Hardy because he was a great Mad Max as well. So yeah, that would be. It's neither of them are ever gonna happen, but you know, the only other thing I would say is like a Spaceballs 2, but I don't know how much that would work. Some of the cast is around. Rest in peace. That's not Chris Farley. That plays you know what I'm talking about, the Chewbacca character in Spaceballs.
Oh,
It's another guy that would like died young, unfortunately. He was in Planes, Trains.
yeah. What's his name?
yeah,
John
I
Candy?
fucking forget his.
John Candy.
Yeah.
John Candy.
So-
Rest in peace, man.
Rest in peace to
Awesome
an
guy.
absolute fucking legend, man.
Legend for real. Yeah.
Yeah, like gave me some of the best laughs of my life. So I mean, you could kind of make it work with some of the cast, but it wouldn't really feel. I mean, dude, they're all probably getting hip replacements at this point. You know what I mean? So I mean that's a phenomenal question again, Nick. Any other questions, Chris? I know you're nodding out over there. I've seen you take really
And then
long.
across the pond, he's like, "Shit, man."
I'm trying to think. I do have one question. Although it might be better as a full episode. It's about film composers.
Mhm.
What would be your favorite film composer? If you were to
Howard
do a
Shore.
movie, what film composer would you pick?
Ugh.
And
That's
his
a
next
tough
next
one,
Cronenberg
man.
movie, which has already manifested because he's scoring it for the Shrouds. I got you, bro.
Oh my, who'd you pick, Chase?
Howard Shore.
Oh,
He's done
Howard
almost all of
Shore.
Cronenberg's
yeah,
Who
all
else would
the
it be?
yeah.
and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So I'd pick Howard Shore.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yep, he
Yeah.
did do. I always forget he did do that as well.
Shit, man, that's a hard one because, like, I mean, mine's. I want to say John Williams, just because.
great.
Yeah, I mean, he's just so timeless with how many fucking movies he's done, and
Yeah,
but I mean,
he's good.
like, I mean, Hans Zimmer's incredible too. So, I'll say John Williams for sure. I think John Williams is probably just timeless. Like the way he composes scores is almost like a template for most movies nowadays. At least in my
Yeah.
opinion, it's always like there's always some influence of Williams in there. So I would say John Williams.
They can be dead or alive, by the way. Just saying.
Mm.
This hypothetical question: dead or alive?
Fair enough.
Dude,
Yeah.
one
I
thing-
wouldn't change my answer. I'm gonna say John
Okay.
Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing about John Williams is like when people use the term goat, they just like throw it out as like, you know, we like this guy.
Yeah,
But like John Williams is the goat.
Yeah.
Like
For
like
real.
there like there's
Yeah.
other great, fantastic other
Yeah.
producers, but like nobody touches John Williams.
yeah.
Yeah.
Some people might,
But you will.
but I'll get flamed for that.
I'm trying to think. I mean, someone that's already passed on, probably Ennio Morricone, just because I grew up with those Western movies, like the Fistful, the Dollars trilogy,
Yeah.
Fistful of Dollars. I still love those movies, but yeah, he's just done so many. I mean, he helped Carpenter with The Thing. He contributed to that. So just so many movies that I grew up with. Yeah, I think Morricone. As far as someone who's still working now, I mean, I don't know if this is cheating because it's two people, but I really am a big fan of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. A lot of the stuff that they've scored. I mean, I'm a big fan of that kind of ambient style, and he takes a lot of influence from his industrial roots, with like Nine Inch Nails. But I mean, to see him doing what he's doing now is just really cool. And Atticus Ross is super talented. So yeah, I guess those would be one. It would be one of those two. Morricone for someone who's passed on, and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and they've scored more movies than I even thought that they were involved with.
Yeah,
like
Morricone's great,
Challengers. Man. I just watched that not long ago, and I didn't even realize they did the score for that. And even the score by itself is just great. I mean, it's just great, something to play in the background. When you're just doing stuff around the house or whatever it is, it's like instead of movies, it's like I could just listen to their music. It's just something about it.
He did that stood out to me that was like super underrated was and it's recent was The Hateful Eight they did with Tarantino. I think that score was fucking fantastic. It was almost like a horror movie kind of. Yeah, it was a fucking great score. Favorites.
But they've done so many. I mean, they did Gone Girl was another one that I really enjoyed. I mean, I like the movie, but yeah, they're just really they work really well together. So
yeah, those are great questions, guys. So
yeah, for real. Awesome question.
To wrap it all up, guys, Chris, Mr. Sleepy, thank you so much for joining us today. Nick, thank you again.
I almost nodded off there.
Thank you so much for joining us again. X, pleasure to have you on for the first time ever. You wonderful panel, wonderful people.
Yeah, thank you.
Great questions, great choices. Couldn't have chosen anybody better to be on here. So thank you guys so much for wanting to come on here. 50 episodes, guys. That's crazy. Even some breaks in there. That's crazy. 50 non-consecutive, but getting there episodes. So
close enough.
All right, Gabe, go ahead and close this out, my man.
Well, we appreciate all of you guys for listening. Stay tuned for more podcasts from Screen to Shelf. Like, subscribe down below, and as always, we will catch you guys on the next one.
Later, guys.
See ya.
Later.